Cousin Jared, we are back for another week of baseball. Last week, our show picks went 13-2, which is
unbelievable.
It's pretty good.
And somehow not even the best show that we did this last week. We had another show.
Yeah, I
better.
Yeah. I was like, what are you talking about? It's late. It's actually not that late. It's been a long couple of weeks with all the college football work and all the NFL work. My brain is clearly not very sharp, but you're right. And we will talk a lot about college football on the show that we record tomorrow, where college football show picks, I think, went 13-4 combined. One of those shows went 8-1. 8-1. And then last week of baseball went 13-2. So hopefully you've been here with us last week. Last week was a lot of fun. But we'll talk about all the football stuff later. Baseball props did not go as well last week, stumbling a little bit towards the end of the week after going 16 of 18 for a stretch. We'll try to get back to our winning ways on the pitcher props at the end of this show. Otherwise, just as a reminder, we're going to cover one A grade play today. There are more A grade plays over on Dub Club. That's where the Dub Clubbers already have all of Sideline's projections for college football for next week, if that's something you're interested in. So again, there's a lot of benefits to being over there on that. So that sign up link again in the show description. Otherwise, we'll get right to it here. A day game, doubleheader between the Braves and the Phillies. We're talking about game one. Braves offense, obviously incredible. Phillies offense, not bad and really been rolling as of late. It's going to be an interesting matchup here with two pretty good pitchers in Charlie Morton and Taijuan Walker. Charlie Morton, 3.32 ERA. Underlying metrics suggest it's probably not that good, but he's been kind of consistently good the last several years now. Maybe not quite as good as his peak with the Astros, but still a very good pitcher that you see with that grade of a full standard deviation better than league average. Taijuan Walker, 4.15 ERA. Same thing, underlying metrics, not as big of a fan. Both these guys have been getting results. They're veterans. They've been around for a while. Great bullpens, of course, as you can see there. Park factor, 98. What that means is we're going to decrease the runs by about 2%. The weather adjusted, basically nothing. We are expecting upper 70s, a slight breeze across or in. It's not going to really matter. It looks to be a fairly ho-hum situation where you've got good offenses on aggregate versus good pitching on aggregate. And the model says 8.8 for the total. Because, Jared, we're going to go under at 9.5. Tell us more.
So the main reason that I like this number is that 9 is such a common outcome for baseball games. And honestly, like if I'm just looking at, Sideline projects this 8.8, 9.5, this is usually like that amount of different discrepancy is kind of right on the edge for me as to whether I would play the under or not. But again, what makes a difference for me here is that 9 is such a common number that baseball games will land at. And with, the Braves, probably going to be the number one seed in the NL, but the Phillies still in the race there. So everybody's still incentivized at this point, even though we've talked about how that hasn't mattered the past couple of years. Both of these teams very much still in it. And again, I just like going under 9.5, so we'll get a winner on 9.
Yeah, I agree. We talk about it a lot with football as well, right? The key numbers, and every once in a while that goes awry. You end up with like a safety or, a missed extra point or whatever in football.
Any game that Iowa's involved in.
Any game that I was involved in, or in today's day and age with the NFL with the longer extra point, right?
Yeah.
But there are still more common outcomes of these sports, and knowing that is important. We talk about with baseball, of course, 9 is the most common game outcome. So it's kind of a key number type thing. Now, baseball doesn't have the same issue of football because you do score runs one at a time, even though you can obviously get 4-1 play, they cross one at a time. It's each person, right? So you don't have quite those same issues, but you do end up with more odd number scores because of tie games. That also matters a little bit more in a tight contest like this. We're expecting this one to be relatively close. We're not going to talk about a side there. That's again reserved for people on Dub Club. But you have a game where the Braves are definitely the better team, but on the road. Like, we're not expecting this to be a blowout. We'll talk about a game later that we're kind of all expecting to be a blowout, right? What's a good price for the Braves? What's a good price for the Phillies? Again, that's all on Dub Club, but we're expecting it could be a close game, could easily land 4-4, and that 9.5 matters because if it's 4-4, you still got a shot versus if you're going under 9, 4-4, you can't win, right? Or so that's what we kind of always like to go under 9.5, over 8.5. And so again, the discrepancy between the projection of the number you're getting matters, the odds matter, but also the keenness of the number matters. So we're going to go under 9.5. Their first 5 total for the record is 4.7. You have some good bullpen, so I like getting all 9 innings here personally. Moving on to the night games, 7:40 p.m. Eastern, Rays at the Twins. Yeah, 2 good offenses. Although the Twins we've long talked about can be up and down, the Rays been a little bit more down over the last 2 to 3 months versus the first 2 to 3 months, right? Offensively, but they've still shown signs of life there. 2 good starters, and Tyler Glasnow and Sonny Gray. Glasnow getting a slightly better rating. His underlying metrics are a little bit better than Sonny Gray's. It's basically the same ERA, basically the same FIP. The xFIP is about a run better for Tyler Glasnow. So that's where he gets a slight edge there. But these are both really good pitchers. The relievers are solid. This should be a really good series between 2 good teams. The Twins, I think, a notch behind your top handful of teams in the AL, but at home, here's their chance to prove it. And that kind of aligns, like the eye test kind of aligns with the numbers here. Model says 50-50 in this game. Who the heck knows? The Rays, a little bit better on offense, a little bit better of a starter. In general, the Rays are a little bit better of a team than the Twins, but on the road kind of balances that out. Model says flip a coin. Plus 115 is just too much value to pass up. It's an A grade value-wise. Cousin Jared, this I feel like is a tale as old of time that we've been doing on this show, this exact situation.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I hate fading Tyler Glasnow. I mean, that's something you kind of get a little, terrible feeling in your stomach when the first pitch goes out.
We backed him a lot this year, which is much more fun.
Yes, it's a lot more fun to back a pitcher like that. But Sonny Gray with that 80 grade, him and Pablo Lopez both have been really good to us all season for the Twins. And so, I'm going to put my faith in sideline, going to put my faith behind Sonny Gray and this Twins team that I feel like we've been on a lot this season. It also tells me something that we're fading the Rays because I couldn't tell you how many times that sideline has been on the Rays this year, but it has got to be approximately 1 billion. So that also tells me something. So sure, 50-50 game, give me the plus odds.
Yeah, I had the same thought. We've talked about we backed the Twins a lot lately. We backed the Rays a lot as well. We backed Glasnow a lot as well, and that's always been again a more fun thing to do than not backing him. But Sonny Gray, we talked about him a little bit here too. Quietly, just putting together a fantastic season. I don't think he's quite getting the love and the recognition that he deserves. 28 starts this year, so he's on pace here to approach 200 innings. I think it's a little unlikely he's going to be right around 200 innings, potentially a sub-3 ERA, and yet we're not talking about him at all, it seems like, for one of the best pitchers. And again, that xFIP's a little bit higher, but just what a fantastic pickup he has been for the Twins. And so back in the Twins here, who the heck knows what happens? And this is, again, the same situation we long talk about. Not a single pick that we make here on this show is we're trying to predict exactly what will happen. What we're trying to do is say, where are the prices that make for smart investments so that taken in totality, we have a good portfolio of plays. And this is another one. I don't know what's going to happen, but if you give me plus 115 on the Twins or plus 115 on the Rays, be happy with either one. Obviously, a little bit more value for the Twins according to the model because it's slightly shifted towards them. But either way, what we're talking about here is the price being the most important thing in a game that should be a great one to watch. A grade pick there on the Twins. And then to our last game of the evening, 8:10 p.m. Eastern, Athletics and the Astros. This is the one, right? Everyone knows this is projected to be a blowout. What the exact price should be, again, we're going to leave that over for our people on Dub Club. Again, that link's in the show description. But with regards to the total, first thing, of course, maybe 9, maybe less of a key number here because we're less likely to be 4-4. Not impossible, right? The A's do sometimes win some games. But of note here, relatively warm in Houston. Not as hot as it's been, Cousin Jared. Down your neck of the woods, projected to be 85 at first pitch. So that's not 105. That's a win.
We walked outside today and it was 93 with no humidity. We said, oh my God, this feels great.
Yeah. So we still will have the roof closed in all likelihood. But here's the thing. Sometimes when you get into September, the Astros do like to open the roof even on a slightly warm day. So the asterisk on this, if they open the roof, it's going to be warmer than if they didn't, which is going to make the ball fly a little bit more. So that's something to think about. That would bump that projection total up. Now, again, my model says 85 degrees. We humans don't typically like 85 degrees. We want the roof closed. But sometimes in Houston, especially at the beginning and the end of the season, they like to open that roof up. It's when it's a nice night, that sort of thing. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm not part of that decision-making process, but that's just a side note. If the roof's open, it will be slightly warm. That projected total is going to go from 9.5 probably closer to 10. Otherwise, this park plays pretty average. You do have some weirdness with this park, the little jet out from left field, because they raised that home run line higher. You end up with fewer home runs out there to that part of the park, but you have more home runs down the line in right field where it's relatively short, and of course in the Crawford boxes. So it all balances out to be a roughly average park. Here's the thing, though. We long talk about lefties against the Astros. Ken Waldichuk, a lefty, 5.63 ERA. Underlying metrics suggest that's been about right. He's just not been very good. The Astros did not quite do much damage to Blake Snell. Blake Snell, and we're going to talk about him tomorrow on the College Football episode, Quinn Ewers, and his unicornness. But Blake Snell's another unicorn in a slightly different way of he kind of seems to always have guys on base, and he somehow always gets out of it. He walks a lot of guys. And he's getting the job. I don't know. And you kind of keep thinking it's going to run out, but I don't know. It's weird. He took care of the Astros on Friday night. For the most part, the Astros hit lefties really well. It's been good for us to back them scoring runs. We think they're going to put up a lot of runs. Framber Valdez for the Astros, a guy who after the first 2 months I thought was going to be firmly in the conversation with the Cy Young, has just been so up and down the last couple of months. Model projects 9.5 runs, thinks that while Framber Valdez, still a good pitcher, this A's offense, as we've long talked about, not terrible, not as bad as their pitching. A's pitching, not good. Relievers, even worse. The Astros should score a bunch of runs. We all kind of assumed that. But I don't think the pitching is good enough right now for the Astros. As an Astros fan, I'm not convinced the pitching is good enough to shut out the A's. We've seen Framber also in certain situations get up a bunch and kind of lose his focus a little bit, give up some runs as well. So it kind of becomes a runs beget runs type situation. We're going to go over 8.5 here, get about a full run differential between the projection and the line. Cousin Jared, tell us more.
I mean, we've said it all season, or it feels like all season. I guess it's probably been a couple of months at this point, but the Astros against a lefty, you can't pass that up. And God bless his soul, Ken Waldichuk. One of the worst lefties that's consistently getting thrown out there and starting every fifth day in the league. So this is just like a really, 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 really bad matchup for the A's is what I would say. And I feel like you and I, as Astros fans, have done really well when we've played Astros totals. I feel that has gone really well for us, especially the past 6 weeks to 2 months or so. This is one that is just way too low. Like personally, I was thought this should be like, well, of course, it's because sideline says 9.5, but then I at least have to ask myself, is this game going to get to double digits? Like that's just in my head. Astros against a lefty, one of the worst lefties that consistently starting in baseball. Is this game going to get to double digits? That's what I thought the decision that I would have to make would be.
Right.
But you're saying 8.5 and over 8.5 minus 105 even like better. This is just very, very odd. But run, don't walk.
Yeah. As we always say, right, no locks in gambling, but the value here is really good long-term value. You can't predict what will happen in one game. But what I like about this pick, too, is we have multiple ways to get to the window. As you said, the Astros start scoring a few runs against Waldichuk. Framber might lose his focus a little bit. He's done that a lot. Give up a few runs to this A's offense, who's got a couple young guys that are doing okay in the middle of that lineup. This could easily turn into a 5-3 game in the 6th inning, and then at that point, you're just needing one more run at the back end. It could also be a situation, even if Framber's on, if it turns into a kind of blowout, the A's have a lot of really weak pitchers at the back of their bullpen, guys that aren't really, major league caliber, but here we are. And those guys come in late. And this game could be kind of like Sunday's Astros game, where the Astros end up putting up a 12 spot against the Padres. They might get this all by themselves in that scenario. So I don't know exactly. And there's, of course, another scenario where hypothetically Waldichuk pitches a fantastic game. That is obviously possible. And then at that point, we're in a little bit of more trouble. That's
Yeah.
why it's gambling
Yeah.
and there's no locks. But
Yeah.
of all the different things that can happen, there's a couple of different ways we can get there. I'm like you. I thought this would be 9.5. And then you have to think like, do I think this can get to double digits? Do I think it's going to be a runaway or not? But that extra full run there affects your break-even point significantly to where this makes for a smart investment. Last thing here, of course, our pitcher prop. We're actually going to circle back to the Twins game and take Sonny Gray over 17.5 outs. This is actually the last prop we won last time he pitched. I think we lost 3 in a row since then. Unfortunately, again, after going 16-2 over those 18 games. When we picked this one a week ago, you just point out, look at all the times that Sonny Gray gets to 18, and look at all those times you have a number divisible by 3. Very rarely is he not finishing an inning. Really, the only question is he been finishing 6 or 7? It's mostly been 6. I don't really think 7 is overly likely against a pretty good Rays offense, but at home, pitchers tend to pitch better. They like their own mound, their own backdrop of what they're throwing at. The timing works out. They tend to have a better first inning because they know exactly when they're going to go out there and pitch, as opposed to not having an idea of how long the top of the first will last. Things just set up better for him at home, and he's been such a machine. I don't know why this is minus 105. I do get that the Rays offense is better, so I get that this shouldn't be like, minus 170 or something like that. But I'm just surprised it's not a little bit more like minus 130, minus 140, something where they're making you pay a tax to back a guy who's just been so consistently getting to 6 innings here as of late. And you can see it there on the graph. Cousin Jared, do you have anything to add to this?
Just the same comments that I had when we talked about the game in general. Like, going against the Rays offense is sometimes scary, but I mean, we've got recent history on our side here with how consistent he's been. So it's not like you're backing the A's here. It isn't a plug your nose and play, but definitely I will admit that, going against the Rays is a little bit uncomfortable, but hey, it's where Sideline sees value, and of course value here with what Gray's done lately. So let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. What are those kind of ride the hot hand things? And I'm not a big hot hand theory person as much as I think it's just showing you how well he's been pitching. And I think that's true talent. I don't think that's just, a miraculous he got hot or something. It's just he's a very solid pitcher.
Well, and there are also definitely managers that like to let pitchers finish innings. Like, there's clearly some guys who are all for that if they can. And it just looking at this certainly seems like that's the feeling they have with Gray, at least.
Yes, and it's sometimes different managers are that way with different pitchers as well, which is a great point because I looked at it's the same number for Tyler Glasnow, and I went with Gray rather than Glasnow specifically, not that Glasnow's not a good pitcher, but because we know the Rays are so aggressive with their relievers and what they do with that. And so that's just an extra, thing you have to think about. That doesn't mean that Glasnow over 17.5 is not also a smart pick. But when you think about that angle and the way they treat their starting pitchers versus the way we clearly have the evidence of the way they treat Sonny Gray, it's not that he's guaranteed to go 6. It's just they really want him to get through 6. And he seems to be doing a great job of meeting those requests and getting through 6 innings. Over 17.5 outs is our pitcher prop of the day at minus 105. And again, courtesy of Outlier.bet/professor, these graphics on these pitchers you can sort by type of prop, game, sport, got NFL, college football, all sorts of goodies. Outlier.bet/professor gets you that free 7-day trial. Cousin Jared, that is our show. Here's the recap on screen. If you've been only with us on Spotify, do hop over every once in a while and check out YouTube. We have some nice little graphics that we have added, so it's not just our faces as much as you love to see our faces. Our faces are a little bit smaller now because we have some nice little slides that I've been creating for this to help out the visual appeal of the show. But other than that, Cousin Jared, any parting words for the viewer here on this Monday?
Stick around the YouTube channel. Lots of good stuff coming this week and every week through football season and while baseball season is still going on. But especially make sure to join us on Dub Club because you get priority access, quicker access to more items, get us a little bit more of everything and more fun over on Dub Club. So make sure you're joining us there as well.
Yep, more of everything, all good things over there on Dub Club. So again, that sign-up link is in the show description. But thank you for tuning into this episode of Picks with the Professor. Don't forget to subscribe so you can enjoy all the sports betting content provided on this channel. Just right into your feed. We'll be back again all week, again, with more college football, more NFL, and more baseball content. But until we see you again, as always, best of luck. And remember, you can get your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.